Hey YouTube, today we're going to be talking about a more budget-friendly premium style sander from MAXXT, so let's get into that on Tinker with Tools. Now, one of the ways I use my tools is a great deal of woodworking, and with any amount of woodworking, one of the big things you'll notice is just how much sanding is involved in that. Now, obviously, a good sander is going to go a long way towards making the sanding more enjoyable, make it go faster, have better dust control, and overall just make for a better finished product. And over the years, I've tried a lot of different sanders. But a couple of weeks ago, MAXXT actually reached out to me and asked if I'd be willing to try out their 6-inch random orbit sander. And I jumped at the chance because this is actually a product that I've looked at purchasing. So obviously wanting to be able to check it out and decide if at this price point I can still get a lot of the premium features that I think come along with having a better sander, while not necessarily having to break the bank and save up for too long to be able to get it. So first off, this is model R7303 from MAXXT, and this is going to be a 6-inch random orbit sander with a 5mm orbit. The 6-inch pad here is going to be a big deal for me because a 6-inch pad, even though it's only an inch bigger than 5 inches, it's actually nearly 50% more surface area that it's sanding every time it goes around. So if you're sanding large objects, a 6-inch sander makes all the difference. One of the things I do like about MAXXT though, is they do offer you the option to be able to purchase a 5-inch pad. All it takes is a screw down here at the bottom to be able to swap out that pad, and you can even purchase a version of this sander that comes with both the 5 and the 6-inch pad. If you do buy the pad on its own, it's actually not too terribly priced. I'll have the price listed down below. And overall, being able to have one sander that does both of those things I think is really good. If you were to try and do that with some other brands, you're talking about purchasing a whole other sander. So already out of the box, I think you're getting a good deal of potential value with this sander. Now, a couple other things about it. It does have the paddle switch up top, and this is something that I had actually not tried until this sander. So far, I'm finding myself loving it. If all you do is lay your hand on it, there's not a lot of force required to push that down, and so it is a pretty low effort thing to be able to engage the sander, and then it just kind of keeps going effortlessly. Now, coming out here to the back, on the back of the tool, you are going to have the power button, which basically turns on the tool, and then you do have a variable speed plus and minus with a light indicator there to kind of let you know what speed it is. And it's going to go all the way from 4,000 up to 10,000 RPMs and basically how fast it spins. Back on the back of the tool, there is a cord. That is potentially one of the areas where I think they could see some improvement, is having a cord that can be detached. Really makes it nice for storing, but then also if anything happens to the cord, it's pretty easy just to order a replacement versus this, you might be trying to rewire something. And then last but not least, down here at the bottom, you are going to have the dust extraction port, which is going to come with a tube that is maybe 4 feet in length, and basically it'll kind of mount really nice to there and then give you a traditional kind of vacuum style port here on the back. Now, the last thing I'll kind of talk to you about is the sanding pad itself. As I already mentioned, it's a 6-inch sanding pad. If you want to buy the 5-inch, you can go down to a 5-inch sanding pad. But you can see that there's quite a few different perforations here for dust collection. That is one of the big claims that they do make, is having better overall dust collection than some of your more budget sanders. So now the specs and features are nice, but how does it actually work? Because if it doesn't work well, then it doesn't really matter how much it costs because you're not going to want to use it anyway. Well, that's another area where I'm pleased to say that it does work quite well, and this is a sander that I'm actually really glad that I have now. The 3 areas that I think need to be evaluated about it is the vibration, the dust control, and how well it removes material. The vibration and comfort of using this sander was noticeable enough compared to some other sanders that I've been trying out that I went ahead and went inside, grabbed my father-in-law and had him come out and try this one, because I was that impressed with how low the vibration was and how comfortable it was to use. The big thing for me is it really didn't take a lot of pressure to be able to move this sander around. I didn't feel like I was wrestling the sander ever. It just did a really good job. And while vibration may not be as noticeable in the first couple of minutes of sanding a project, the more you use it, the more noticeable it's going to become. So a low vibration sander like this is definitely going to be something that you're going to be grateful for when you've been sanding for a long period of time. Now, dust collection is the second area. With this being a 6-inch pad, I was only sanding on a 5-inch board with some slots in it, and so there was some dust escaping here. But when most of the pad was actually on the material, there was actually very little dust buildup anywhere around it. It did a really good job at actually collecting that and sucking it up into the vacuum hose. That is one area where I think this sander does shine though, is it offers pretty good dust collection, and that is going to make any sanding job infinitely better, both for your own health, because you're not going to have a ton of dust in the air, and just for the cleanup and the amount of mess it makes, it does a really good job there. Now then, how well does it remove material? Well, I used it on 2 distinct projects. The first one was using it to sand down some really rough cedar fence pickets. They were really rough when I started out. It really was quite easy to take it down through the different grits from 80 to 120 and then up to 180 and achieve just a really nice overall finish on there. Now, the second bit of testing I did was to take a 4 or 5 foot long pine board. It was just kind of the common pine board you get from Home Depot, and I sanded half of it with the MAXXT. I then went and got the Festool and sanded the other half with the Festool. Now, in terms of the actual finish between the two of them, there wasn't a real big discernible difference there. Now, I didn't spend time getting these perfect, so both of them still have some different blemishes and stuff. But what I will tell you is, to the touch, they both look really good. And then if you hold them up to kind of a different light so you can kind of really see what the surface looks like, both of them are really smooth. So in terms of finish quality, obviously there wasn't a discernible difference to me with the finish quality here. And so I'm pretty satisfied with how this is, given that it comes in at a lower price point. And the big thing that came from that second test was, of the 2 sanders, which one did I enjoy using more? It was the MAXXT. This Festool was trying to wander a little bit. I really hate when sanders kind of have a mind of their own and grab the material and kind of move around a little bit. This one was just a little bit more herky-jerky. Overall, the vibration was pretty good, but it just was a bit more of a handful to use. Not knocking the Festool, I still think it's a great sander. It's just, in this comparison between these 2 sanders, there's a clear winner for me and which one I would want to use if I wanted to keep sanding and going on. So then the next thing I want to talk about is basically who I think this sander is for. I think sanders are going to fall into kind of 2 different camps, in my opinion, where you're going to be talking about kind of the stuff you're going to buy at the hardware store, whether that's a corded Bosch or a corded DeWalt, for example. They're going to range in price from, say, the high 70s up to maybe $100 for a nicer corded option. I don't think you're looking at a $35 Black & Decker and thinking, maybe I should go up to this. But if you're kind of shopping in that more premium option, the price difference between that DeWalt, for example, and up here with this is only going to be about $50. And when it's on sale, which it was for Black Friday, it actually was only about a difference of $15 to $20. And when you start talking about that difference, I think there's a lot of reason to consider maybe saving just a little bit more to be able to purchase this and kind of get that more premium experience. The big things for me, the 6-inch sanding disc, big deal, especially if you're doing something like a table or a bigger cabinet. 6-inch capacity really makes a difference, and being able to, for just a small fee more, get the 5-inch as well, I think that's a really good thing. With more premium sanders, you're talking about having to pay to be able to kind of have a second sander for that. Now, the second group that I think you're going to be comparing to is to some of the more premium options. This may be for someone who's been at that budget premium and is now looking to step up, but doesn't necessarily feel great about making a commitment to a $500 or $600 sander. See, the reason why I have this Festool is because this one was only about $225 when I purchased it, but now with all the different price increases it's had over the years, this is now a $295 sander, and it still is just a basic 5-inch random orbit sander that works well, but it's $295. $155 kind of standard pricing for this really is a pretty good deal. But when you start talking about making that comparison up to the $400, $500, or $600 sanders, I think this is a good middle ground for someone who's looking to take that leap, but maybe isn't ready for that financial commitment yet, and can see if some of those more premium features or the bigger size or different things are going to be worth it to them. So I think it's ideal for someone who's kind of a DIYer, kind of that hobbyist wood shop. This could be a good jumping point to maybe seeing if you're into that more premium thing. And who knows, maybe this is going to be the sander you need and the only one you need to, and then you find out that you didn't have to spend that big price tag. But either way, I think it's a good thing to have something at this price point that does give some good features. Now, obviously, like I said, the big thing is going to be how it's going to be durable in a year or in 6 months. That's where I need to report back. But at first impressions, I'm really happy with this sander, and I'm glad that I have it, and I'm excited to use it on more projects and see how it hands up. Now, go ahead and check out the link down below so you can check out the sander. Kind of keep an eye on it. It does go on sale from time to time, and that's one way you can save a little bit of money. But even at its full price, I do think it's worth checking out for someone who's going to be doing a lot of sanding. I think this could save you some time and just even some overall comfort in being able to make it a nicer experience doing a bigger sanding job. All right, so once again, thank you MAXXT for sending the sander over. If you have any questions about it, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out a new video. And until next time, thank you for all your continued support, and I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.